days in the beginning of September. I don't know how we're going to do it in less time now.
Yes, Phoebe?
I would suggest that maybe what we could do is discuss only the items that anyone has a question about. And then we could accept everything else as a bundle. In that manner, we could address the concerns of each individual, and we could also do it quickly. Thank you.
Yes, David, and then Ron.
I agree with you completely, Phoebe. My first question to you is which item under tab 10 you have a question about?
You'll have to give me a little bit of time to find it, David, but
Okay.
I do have some.
The point I think that Ron was getting at is exactly the same point you're trying to get at.
Exactly.
He's saying, look, 90% of this budget we all are going to agree on. There's only going to be a debate on 10% or maybe 5%. Let's get the 90% handled and just deal with the 5 or 10%. That's what Ron was trying to say with his budget. Now, his motion, I understand it may be confusing. Item 10 composes the 90% that I believe everybody on this board agrees with. And so he's saying, okay, since we all agree with it, let's get rid of it so we can then discuss only those items, as you have said, Phoebe, that we have any differences on.
Excuse me, point of order here. That motion has already been voted on and it failed, and I see no purpose in continuing that discussion.
There is a purpose.
Well,
I'm
no
looking for a
motion
new
on the
motion.
floor to discuss.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Ron.
what Phoebe has suggested is that we discuss the budget without any motion on the floor. Is that appropriate?
No, I don't believe she's suggesting that.
That's what I
think
just
I
heard
think
her
the only
say.
motion I heard was a suggestion that or a motion to approve the 2009 baseline budget. That motion failed.
Right.
And I
Mr.
don't
President.
I haven't heard any further motion.
Mr.
And yet
That's exactly my point.
And yet we're continuing to discuss the failed motion.
Mr. President, there were 5 nay votes. I would appreciate a motion from any one of the 5 so that we can move on.
Tell us what you want to do.
I'm waiting for a motion.
So am I.
I'll be happy to make a motion. At the time I discussed that, we were in a discussion phase. My motion is that we take a look at item 10 and that we discuss any elements within those proposed budgets that any member has would like to have discussion, and that we vote on them, and then all of the rest that we do not have questions about that we can accept. So my motion is that we do accept the budget as presented, except by exceptions that we may want to bring up and discuss and vote on. I'm not suggesting that we look at every number. I am suggesting that we give the members an opportunity to make recommendations on the numbers that they believe are of concern.
Is that the whole motion or just part of it?
Excuse me, David. The motion, as I understand it, is to address the items in Section 10 on an exception basis, which will be brought up by individual directors as a motion, voted on, discussed, and any items not brought up within this blanket motion will be assumed to be accepted. Is that pretty much it? Can I hear a second on that?
Did you get that, Paulette, for the minutes?
We should.
Would you like me to restate it? The motion is to address the line items under Section 10 on an exception basis. Items not addressed will be assumed to be accepted.
Excuse me, do you mean that... Can I ask you a question about that?
Certainly.
For clarification. When you say address the items, do you really mean to approve those items?
No, address the items on an exception basis. In other words,
I don't know what
well,
that
let me
means.
explain that. If we address them on an exception basis, we'll pick out individual items that we do not approve or that a director has questions on. The board will then discuss that item, vote on it, and either approve or reject it. That's what I mean by an exception basis. Anything not addressed within this motion will be assumed to be accepted. Yes, David?
Maybe I can speed things along, because this is getting kind of cumbersome. May I suggest that we find out, first of all, if there's anybody here who has any question about any item under Section 10. And then, if there are no questions under any item on Section 10, we can just have a motion approving the items under Section 10. If there are exceptions, and we know about them, then we can approve all the items under Exception 10, except for those that have questions. How would that work as a procedure?
Well, I would assume that there are objections, otherwise Ron's motion would have passed.
Well, or possibly, just possibly, some people may not have understood Ron's motion.
Possibly not, but I think that's for them to determine. Are there any line items under Section 10 that anybody... I need a second on the motion, first of all. Is there a second on Phoebe's motion?
I'll second it.
All right, the motion has been seconded, and the floor is open for discussion. Yes, Ron? I mean, John.
We were presented a budget line by line, but there was never any opportunity to adjust that thing. There were questions raised, and we have been studying that budget for some time now, and if we have a question, then now is the time to ask about it.
Now is the time. That's correct. Does anyone have any particular item that they have a question? We're not taking a vote. Oh, you mean...
Yeah, you have to take a vote.
Motion on the floor.
Okay, I'm sorry. Discussion. Further discussion. May I have a vote on the motion?
Smith,
No.
Folger,
Yes.
Rosenzweig. No. Carmichael. Yes. Cortesis.
Yes.
Moshel.
I will vote yes to get this thing moving.
Soloway.
Me too, yes.
Turnier.
Yes, without a motion.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you.